Australia raised interest rates aggressively, 11 times between 2022 and 2024. Inflation was supposed to fall. Instead, Australia now has the second highest inflation rate of any advanced economy in the world. Higher than the United States, higher than the United Kingdom, higher than Germany, France, Japan, South Korea, and Canada. Why? This is AxisShift, and before this video ends, you'll understand why Australia's inflation problem is not a political failure. It is a structural one, built into the architecture of the economy itself. Let's start with what the numbers actually show. Australia's annual inflation hit 4.6% in March, the highest in nearly 3 years. But the underlying rate keeps rising. The RBA's preferred measure reached 3.6% in May 2026, the highest since September 2024, and won't return to target until at least mid-2027. And the Reserve Bank now believes inflation may stay elevated for years. Most advanced economies saw inflation peak in 2022 and 2023, then fall. Australia diverged from that pattern. And the reason why reveals something important about how modern economies actually work. The first layer is obvious: energy. When US and Israeli forces struck Iran in February 2026, fuel prices across Australia rose by roughly 50 cents per litre almost overnight. This is the Strait of Hormuz effect. Through that waterway flows 20% of the world's daily oil supply. Australia imports the majority of its refined fuel, which means every disruption to global energy markets lands directly on Australian petrol stations and directly on the cost of moving goods across a continent-sized country. But here is where it gets interesting. Australia exports enormous amounts of energy, yet Australians are paying some of the highest energy prices in the developed world. That contradiction is not an accident. It is built into how Australia's energy market is structured. And Australians are being hit from another direction too: housing. Housing inflation in Australia is running at 6.5%. Rents have risen 18% since 2022. Australia has one of the most severe housing supply shortages in the developed world. More people are arriving than homes are being built. And building costs themselves are inflating because construction materials, trades, and labor are all in short supply. Housing is not just a cost of living problem. It is a structural inflation driver embedded in the economy for years to come. The third layer is harder to see: productivity. Australians are working harder, but the economy is producing less growth per hour worked. Businesses face higher costs, consumers pay more. Inflation becomes harder to kill. The Reserve Bank governor has described Australia's inflation as increasingly homegrown, not just imported from global supply chains, but generated inside the economy itself. There is a fourth layer that connects everything. Australia was built on 3 assumptions: cheap energy from global markets, cheap capital from low interest rates, and a stable global trading system that kept import costs low. All 3 of those assumptions are now under pressure simultaneously. Energy is more expensive, capital is more expensive, and global supply chains are more fragile than they have been in decades. Australia's geographic isolation, which once insulated it from many global shocks, now amplifies the cost of every disruption. Because there is no overland route to cheaper goods, every import must cross an ocean. So what does this mean for investors? The RBA cash rate now sits at 4.35%, among the highest in Australia's modern history. Every mortgage holder is feeling it. Every business carrying debt is feeling it. And with underlying inflation refusing to fall, the RBA faces an uncomfortable choice: raise rates further and risk recession, or hold and risk inflation becoming entrenched. If you hold Australian equities, property, or superannuation, this is not an abstract debate. It is the single most important variable affecting your returns right now. Australia was designed for a world of cheap energy, cheap money, and stable trade. That world may be disappearing. And Australia may be discovering that some economies were built for a world that no longer exists. Subscribe to AxisShift, because the world is turning, and you should know which way.